Once upon a time, deep in a forest, a group of workers set off for what was supposed to be a fun weekend. Their boss, a slick operator with big plans, announced they were headed to build a brand new shopping mall in the area and put Jonas in charge as the project manager. When they reached the village, the local crew welcomed them with mixed smiles, and among them was a girl named Lena. She looked a bit off and mentioned she hadn't been feeling well lately, so she needed to steer clear of anything too stressful. As everyone settled into their rooms, the chef got busy in the kitchen only to discover no gas. He jumped into his car to find someone who could fix it, and while driving, he heard a radio report about protesters angry over the new mall. Just then, something smashed into his car, making him slam on the brakes. He got out to take a closer look and found that someone had set up a trap on the road. Curious as ever, he started investigating, but before he could figure things out, a mysterious figure jumped him from behind. Meanwhile, the workers gathered for a presentation about the mall project. Lena, feeling out of place after a few days away from work, leaned on her friend Amir for comfort. During the meeting, a sharp-eyed girl named Nadia spotted something fishy in the budget. Lena, ever curious, checked the documents and realized this version wasn't the same one she had signed before. In this new copy, a farmer who had lost his home because of the mall was getting no compensation at all. Lena immediately called it out, only to be shocked when she saw her own signature on the paper. Convinced someone had forged it, she stood her ground. Jonas tried to calm her, suggesting that maybe she'd forgotten signing it because of her illness, but Nadia wasn't buying it. She insisted they review the budget again, yet the boss shut her down quick, saying too much talk would only bring a bad vibe to the whole team. Elsewhere, one of the local workers was taking a well-deserved beer break, enjoying his moment of peace, until suddenly a sword was rammed straight through him. Later, a masked man appeared, riling up the crowd about the mall project, only to reveal himself as none other than Jonas, trying to keep the team motivated. In a quiet moment, away from all the chaos, the boss pulled Jonas aside and promised that if he played his cards right, he'd be the one to break the first ground and grab all the media attention. Later, during a recreational break, the guy told everyone to put down their phones so they could truly enjoy the moment. Meanwhile, Lena leaned over and confided in error that her signature had been forged without her consent. She insisted that the farmer deserved compensation, but Amir admitted with a heavy heart that it was too late. The farmer had taken his own life after his house was demolished. The activity kicked off as the group split into two teams for a raft building challenge, their goal being to cross the river with the first team to succeed, declared the winner. While everyone was busy racing to build their rafts, a shadowy figure, the killer, slipped in unnoticed and stole a backpack. That wasn't just any bag. It held all of their phones and even Jonas's prized costume headpiece. Back at the reception area, the receptionist soon noticed that some of the staff were missing. When she set out to find them, she came face to face with the murderer. She tried to run, but he caught her and ended her life in a gruesome way that sent shivers down everyone's spine. For the final recreational activity, the group was told they had to use a zipline to cross the lake. The team egged Lena on, but she refused, too afraid of dangerous situations. Seizing the distraction, she slipped away to Jonas's room and began rummaging through his computer. There, she uncovered files proving that the entire project was a sham. Jonas was pushing it forward solely to secure a high-ranking position in his company. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she quickly copied the incriminating evidence onto a memory stick. Meanwhile, the guy discovered that all the cell phones had been stolen, but she tried to reassure everyone, urging them not to worry and to continue enjoying their weekend. Unbeknownst to the group, the killer was busy preparing for a major attack, setting up multiple traps throughout the forest. Not long after, some of the boys decided to relax in the hot tub. While the guide intended to ask her colleagues about the missing bag of phones, she noticed that none of the staff were around. Before she could react, the killer appeared again. She tried to escape, but, like the others, she met a brutal end. Shortly afterward, Lena made her way to the jacuzzi and called her most trusted allies, Nadia and Amir, to break the news about Jonas's deception. She explained that the project was a scam destined to cause huge economic losses and declared that it had to be stopped. Determined to put an end to the farce, she confronted Jonas directly, accusing him of forging her signature. Jonas, ever the manipulator, invited her to his room for a private discussion. Once alone, he offered her a high-ranking position in exchange for her silence, but Lena stood firm. She warned him that if he didn't cancel the project, she would take the evidence to the authorities and have him arrested. As the confrontation unfolded, the killer reappeared at the hot tub and murdered one of the boys who hadn't played a major role in the events. An elderly environmentalist woman who had witnessed the attack managed to escape for a brief moment. Meanwhile, the boss, feeling a sudden pang of hunger, headed to the reception area only to find the place drenched in blood. Shocked, she noticed a gruesome pile of teeth scattered on the floor. Stepping outside, she came face to face with the killer, who attacked her without hesitation. Her screams rang out, and the rest of the group rushed outside, only to find her lifeless body hanging from a flagpole. Panic set in, and everyone began to run. In the chaos, Jonas tried to escape but fell into one of the killer's traps. Lena rushed to help him, but they had no choice but to use a raft to cross the river in their desperate bid to get away. Back at the reception, the remaining survivors discovered that all the staff had been killed. As they paddled across the river, Jonas demanded that Lena hand over the memory stick, threatening to leave her behind if she refused. With no other choice, she reluctantly handed it over, only for him to toss it into the water, forcing her to return to the mainland alone and stranded. Now, Lena was forced to hide in the forest to evade the relentless killer. Realizing that no help was coming, the others armed themselves with whatever they could find, preparing to fight back against the terror in their midst. Summoning his courage, Amir set out to find Lena, determined to rescue her from the nightmare that had overtaken their weekend. Here, Lena quickly spotted the beam of Jonas's flashlight and started rushing towards him. Meanwhile, the others were hopping into the car, ready to escape, but the killer was already there, quicker than them. He blew the car up right in front of their eyes. Just as they were about to lose hope, someone appeared at the door. It was Lena and Amir, somehow managing to make it back from the forest. Then, from her hiding spot, the elderly environmentalist woman emerged, and she came face to face with Jonas, helping stitch up his wound as she explained the killer's presence. She admitted that this may be her fault. She had warned one of her environmentalist friends about the mall project, someone who might have opposed it strongly. Now, she feared the killer could very well be that person, her friend. Jonas, suspicious and more paranoid, decided to make a run for it. Grabbing a motorcycle, he sped off, leaving the old woman to face the killer alone. She even tried to take off his mask, realizing too late that the person behind it wasn't who she thought. Before she could react, he killed her, just like all the others. Jonas kept speeding on the bike, but it malfunctioned, sending him crashing straight into the river. Back at the hideout, Amir found an old newspaper with chilling testimonies from people who had been hurt by the mall project. Finally, they figured out who the killer was. The son of the farmer who had taken his life after his home was destroyed. A son seeking revenge. With little time to waste, the group decided to flee into the forest, using the zipline to cross the lake. Unfortunately, as they rushed to the zipline, the killer was already prepared, setting up more traps. Amir, realizing what had to be done, made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure Lena could escape. Meanwhile, the older members of the group sheltered themselves in a cabin. Lena and Amir were on the run, but the killer anticipated their next move. As they arrived at the zipline, they saw the trap, and with one last effort, Amir distracted the killer so Lena could get away safely. Lena, running through the woods, soon stumbled upon where the killer had hidden the stolen phones. Searching through the bags, she grabbed hers and quickly dialed police, all while feeling the deadly presence of the killer closing in on the old woman. Just as he was about to strike, the old man intervened, setting fire to the killer's mask. The killer doused it in water, but as he turned to finish them off, something unexpected happened. Nadia, fighting for her life, appeared behind him and, with swift precision, decapitated the killer, finally ending his reign of terror. Soon after, Lena noticed that the police had arrived, even though they hadn't seen her yet. Suddenly, Jonas reappeared and attacked her. He was determined to kill her so she could never expose the damning information that would ruin him. Forced to fight for her life, Lena battled with every ounce of strength she had and ultimately killed Jonas. By then, the police had reached the scene, and Lena made her way back to the village where she and the other survivors finally received help. And that's how this story ends. If you've come this far, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.